Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll continue our reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila, chapter 5, verse 61 onwards. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tavam vande vishri gurum dim tarinam parmananda madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Hariyam Tatsat. Anir ki katha tumi prabhur updeshta Amita Bhikshuk Vipra Tumi More Poshta. You are an instructor even for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What to speak of others? I am but a beggar Brahman and you are my maintainer. Verse 62. Bhal mand kichu ami puchite na jani deen dekhi kripa kari kahiba apani. I do not know how to inquire, for I do not know what is good and what is bad. Seeing me to be poor in knowledge, kindly speak whatever is good for me by your own good will. Verse 63. Tabe Rāmānanda krame kahite lagila Krishna katha rasamrit sindhu uthalila. Thereupon Rāmānanda Rāya gradually began speaking on topics of Krishna. Thus the ocean of transcendental mellows of these topics became agitated. Verse 64. Apane prashna kari pache karen siddhant tritiya prahar haila nahe katha ant. He began personally posing questions and then answering them with conclusive statements. When afternoon came, the topic still did not end. Verse 65. Vakta shrota kahe sune dunhe premavesh Atma Smriti Nahi Kahan Janiba Din Shesh. The speaker and listener spoke and heard in ecstatic love, thus they forgot their bodily consciousness. How then could they perceive the end of the day? Verse 66. Seva Kaila Dina Haila Avasan Tabe Rai Krishna Kathar Karila Vishram. The servant informed him the day has already ended. Then Rāmānanda Rāya ended his discourses about Krishna. Verse 67. Bahu samman kari Miśre vidaye dila Kritharth ha ilan bali Miśra nachite lagila. Rāmānanda Rāya paid great respect to Pradyumna Miśra and bade him farewell. Pradyumna Miśra said, I have become very satisfied. He then began to dance. Verse 68. Ghare giya Miśra Kaila snan bhojan sandhya kale dekhite aila prabhur charan. After returning home, Pradyumna Miśra bathed and ate his meal. In the evening, he came to see the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 69. Prabhur charan vande ullasit mane Prabhu kahe Krishna katha haila shravane. In great happiness, he worshipped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord inquired, have you heard topics about Krishna? Verse 70. Miśra kahe Prabhu more kritarth karila Krishna katha amrit taranave more dubaila. Pradyumna Miśra said, my dear Lord, you have made me extremely obliged to you because you have drowned me in a nectarian ocean of talks about Krishna. Verse 71. Rāmānanda Rāya katha kaile nahe manushya nahe Rāya Krishna bhakti rasamay. I cannot properly describe the discourses of Rāmānanda Rāya, for he is not an ordinary human being. He is fully absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord. But one is forbidden to accept the Guru or spiritual master as an ordinary human being. Gurushu Naramatihi. When Rāmānanda Rāya spoke to Pradyumna Miśra could understand that Rāmānanda Rāya was not an ordinary human being. A spiritually advanced person who is authorized to act as a spiritual master speaks as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dictates from within. That thus it is not that that is personally speaking. In other words, when a pure devotee or spiritual master speaks, what he says should be accepted as having been directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Parampara system. Verse 72. Ar ek katha Rāya kahila amare, Krishna katha vakta kari na janiya more. There is one other thing Rāmānanda Rāya said to me, do not consider me the speaker of these talks about Krishna. Verse 73, Mor mukhe katha kahena apne Gaura Chandra, yaiche kahaye taiche kahi yen vina yantra. Whatever I speak is personally spoken by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like a stringed instrument. I vibrate whatever he causes me to speak. Verse 74, Mor mukhe kahaye katha kare prachar, prithivite ke janibe e lila tanhar. In this way the Lord speaks through my mouth to preach the cult of Krishna consciousness within the world. Who will understand this pastime of the Lord's? Verse 75, Ye sab shunilun Krishna rase rasagar brahmadi devera e sab nahaya gochara. What I have heard from Rāmānanda Rāya is like a nectarian ocean of discourses about Krishna. Even the demigods, beginning with Lord Brahma, cannot understand all these topics. Verse 76, Hena rasa pan mor karaile tumi, janme janme tumar pae pikailan ami. My dear Lord, you have made me drink this transcendental nectar of Krishna Katha, therefore I am sold to your lotus feet life after life. Verse 77, Prabhu kahe Rāmānanda vinayra khani apnar katha par munde den ani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Rāmānanda Rāya is a man of great humility, therefore he has attributed his own words to another's intelligence. Verse 78, Mahanubhavera ei sahaj swabhav haya, apnar gun nahi apne kahaya. This is a natural characteristic of those advanced in devotional service. They do not personally speak of their own good qualities. Verse 79, Rāmānanda Rāya e kahilu gunalesha Pradyumna Miśra yaiche kaila upadesh. I have described but a fraction of the transcendental attributes of Rāmānanda Rāya as revealed when he instructed Pradyumna Miśra. Verse 80, Grihastha hena nahe Rāya sad shad vargera vashe, vishayi hena sannyasire upadeshe. Although Rāmānanda Rāya was a householder, he was not under the control of the 6 kinds of bodily changes. Although apparently a pound and shillings man, he advised even persons in the renounced order. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya externally appeared to be a grihastha who was under the influence of external material energy, but not a self-controlled brahmachari, vanaprastha or sannyasi. Grihasthas, that is the householders who are under the influence of the external energy, accept householder life for the purpose of sense enjoyment. But a transcendently situated Vaishnava is not subject to the influence of the senses by the Lord's material rule of the 6 kinds of bodily changes: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad and Matsarya. Even when he plays the part of Grihastha, thus, although Srila Rāmānanda Rāya acted as Grihastha and was accepted as an ordinary pounds and shillings man, he was always absorbed in the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore, his mind was spiritually situated and he was interested only in the subject of Krishna. Rāmānanda Rāya was not among the Mayavadi impersonalists or materialistic logicians who are opposed to the principles of Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. He was already spiritually situated in the order of renounced life. Therefore, he was able to turn sand into gold by spiritual potency, or in other words, to elevate a person from material to a spiritual position. Verse 81, E saba guna tandra prakash karite mishrer pathaila tahan shravan karite. To demonstrate the transcendental attributes of Rāmānanda Rāya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Pradyumna Miśra to hear discourses about Krishna from him. Verse 82. Bhakt guna prakashite prabhu bhal jane, nana bhangite guna prakashi nij labh mane. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, knows very well how to demonstrate the qualities of his devotees. Therefore, acting like an artistic painter, he does so in various ways and considers this his personal profit. Verse 83. आर एक स्वभाव गौरेर शुन भक्त गण ऐश्वर्य स्वभाव गूढ़ करे prakatana. There is yet another characteristic of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. O devotees, listen carefully to how he manifests his opulence and characteristics, although they are exceptionally deep. Verse 84. Sannyasi Pandit Ganer Karite Garvanash Neech Shudra Dwar Karena Dharmera Prakash. To vanquish the false pride of so-called renunciates and learned scholars, he spreads real religious principles even through a Shudra or low-born fourth-class man. But when a man is greatly learned in the Vedanta Sutras, he is known as Pandit or learned scholar. Generally, this qualification is attributed to Brahmins and Sannyasis. Sannyas, the renounced order of life, is the topmost position for a Brahman, a member of the highest of all four Varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. According to public opinion, a person born in Brahman family, duly reformed by the purificatory processes and properly initiated by a spiritual master, is an authority on Vedic literature. When such a person is offered the sannyas order, he comes to occupy the topmost position. The Brahman is supposed to be the spiritual master of the other three Varnas, namely Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and the sannyasi is supposed to be the spiritual master even of the exalted Brahmins. Generally, Brahmins and sannyasis are very proud of their spiritual positions. Therefore, to cut down their own false pride, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached Krishna consciousness through Rāmānanda Rāya, who was neither a member of the renounced order nor a Brahman indeed. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya was a Grihastha belonging to a Shudra class, yet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranged for him to be the master of who taught Pradyumna Miśra, a highly qualified Brahman in a Brahman family. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, although belonging to the renounced order, took instruction from Sri Rāmānanda Rāya. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his opulence through Sri Rāmānanda Rāya. This is the special significance of this incident. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Sei Guru Haya. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master without reference to whether or not he is a Brahman or sannyasi. Ordinary people cannot understand the essence of Shastra, nor can they understand the pure character, behavior and abilities of strict followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's principles. The Krishna consciousness movement is creating pure, exalted Vaishnavas even from those born in family considered lower than the Shudra. This is proof that a Vaishnava may appear in a family as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.18. Kirat Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavanaha Khasadayah Ye Anecha Papa Yad Apashriyah Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Kirats, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulkshas, Abhiras, Shumbhas, Yavans and members of Khasa race and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotee of the Lord due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Bhagavad-Gita 2.4.18. By the grace of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, anyone can be completely purified, become a preacher of Krishna consciousness, and become the spiritual master of the entire world. This principle is accepted in all Vedic literature. Evidence can be quoted from authoritative Shastras showing how a low-born person can become a spiritual master of the entire world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to be considered the most munificent personality, for he distributes the real essence of the Vedic Shastras to anyone who become qualified or becoming his sincere servant. Verse 85. Bhakti prem tattva kahe Rāya kari vakta apani Pradyumna Miśra sahe haya shrota. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached about devotional service, ecstatic love, and absolute truth by making Rāmānanda Rāya a grihastha born in a low family the speaker. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, the exalted Brahman sannyasi, and Pradyumna Miśra, the purified Brahman, both became the hearers of Rāmānanda Rāya. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his Amrit Prabha Bhashya that sannyasis in line of Shankaracharya always think that they have performed all the duties of Brahmanas, and that furthermore, having understood the essence of the Vedanta Sutra and becoming sannyasis, they are the natural spiritual masters of all societies. Similarly, persons born in Brahman families think that they execute the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas and follow the principles of Smriti. They alone can become spiritual masters of society. These highly exalted Brahmanas think that unless one is born in a Brahman family, one cannot become a spiritual master and teach the absolute truth. To cut down the pride of these birthright Brahmanas and Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proved that we were saying that Rāmānanda Rāya, although born in a Shudra family and situated in the grihastha ashram, can become the spiritual master of such exalted personalities as himself and Pradyumna Miśra. This is the principle of the Vaishnava cult that evinced in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A person who knows that he is what is spiritual and what is material, and who is firmly fixed in the spiritual position, can be Jagat Guru, the spiritual master of the entire world. One cannot become Jagat Guru simply by advertising himself as Jagat Guru without knowing the essential principles for becoming Jagat Guru. Even people who never see that a Jagat Guru is and never talk with other people become puffed up sannyasis and declare themselves Jagat Guru. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like this. Any person who knows the science of Krishna and who is fully qualified in spiritual life can become Jagat Guru. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally took lessons from Sri Rāmānanda Rāya and also sent Pradyumna Miśra, an exalted Brahmana, to take lessons from him. Verse 86. Haridas Dwara Nama Mahatmaya Prakash Sanatan Dwara Bhakti Siddhanta Vilasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited the glories of the holy name of the Lord through Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family. Similarly, he exhibited the glories of the holy name of the Lord through Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family. Similarly, he exhibited the essence of devotional service through Sanatan Goswami, who had almost been converted into a Muslim. Verse 87. Shirup Dwara Vrajera Prem Rasa Lila Ke Bujite Pare Kambhira Chaitanya Khela. Also, the Lord fully exhibited the ecstatic love and transcendental pastimes of Vrindavan through Sri Rupa Goswami. Considering all this, who can understand the deep plans of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Verse 88. Sri Chaitanya Lila e Amritera Sindhu Trijagat Bhasaite Pare Yar Ek Bindu. The activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are just like an ocean of nectar. Even a drop of this ocean can inundate all the three worlds. Purport: to inundate the three worlds with nectar is the purpose of the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How this could be possible was this exhibited by Sri Raghunath Das Goswami and later by Thakur Narottam Das Thakur and Rāmānanda Goswami, who all represented exhibited by Raghunath Das Goswami and later by Thakur Narottam Das and Rāmānanda Goswami, all represented the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now that same mercy is overflowing in the entire world through the Krishna consciousness movement, the present Krishna consciousness movement. Krishna consciousness movement. The present Krishna consciousness movement is not different from the pastimes performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was personally present, for the same principles are being followed and the same actions performed without fail. Verse 89, Chaitanya Charitamrita Nitya Kar Pan Yahe Yaha Haite Premanand Bhakti Tattva Gyan. O devotees, relish the nectar of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for by doing so one can merge in the transcendental bliss and attain full knowledge and devotional service. Verse 90. Ei mata Mahaprabhu bhakta gana lena nilachale viharaye bhakti pracharya. Thus Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by his associates, his pure devotees, enjoyed the transcendental bliss in Jagannath Puri, Nilachal, by preaching the bhakti cult in many ways. Verse 91. Bangadeshi ek vipra prabhura charite natak kari lena aila prabhuke shunaite. A Brahman from Bengal wrote a drama about the characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and came with his manuscript to induce the Lord to hear it. Verse 92. Bhagavan Acharya Sane Tar Parichaye Tanre Mili Tanra Ghare Karila Alaye. The Brahman was acquainted with Bhagavan Acharya, one of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, after meeting him at Jagannath Puri, the Brahman made his residence at Bhagavan Acharya's home. Verse 93. Prathame natak tenho tanre shunaila tandra sange anek Vaishnav natak shunila. After the Brahman induced Bhagavan Acharya to hear the drama, and then many other devotees joined Bhagavan Acharya in listening to it. Verse 94. Sabaye prashamse natak param uttam Mahaprabhure shunaite sabar haila mana. All the Vaishnavas praised the drama, saying, very good, very good. They also desired that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hear the drama. Verse 95. Gita shlok granth kavitva ye kari ane prathame shunaye se swaruper sthane. Customarily, anyone who composed a song, verse, literary composition, or poem about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first had to bring it to Swarup Damodar Goswami to be heard. Verse 96. Swarup Thani Uttare Yadi Lena Tandra Mana Tabe Mahaprabhu Thani Karai Shravana. If passed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, it could be presented for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear. Verse 97. रसा भास है यदि सिद्धांत विरोध सहिते ना पारे प्रभु मने है क्रोध. If there were a hint that transcendental mellows overlapped in a manner contrary to the principles of the bhakti cult, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not tolerate it and would become very angry. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes the following definition of Rasa Bhas from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Uttar Vibhag, 9th wave, 1 to 3, verses 1 to 3 and 33, 38 and 41. Purvam evanu shishtena vikala rasa lakshana rasa eva rasa bhasa rasa gyer anukirtitaha syustridho parashas chanu rashas cha parashas chate uttam madhyama prokta kanishthas cheti ami kramat prapteh sthai vibhavanu bhavadyes tu virupatam shantadayo rasa eva dvadasho parasha matah bhaktadibhir vibhavadayeh Krishna sambandh varjitayeh rasa hasyadayah saptah shantas chanurasa matah Krishna tat pratipakshash ched vishaya shrayatam gatah hasadinam tadatit atra pragyer aparasa matah bhavah sarvya tadabhasa rasabhashas kechana ami prokta rasa bhijanah sarve api rasanad rasah. A mellow temporarily appearing transcendental but contradicting mellows previously stated and lacking some of the mellow's necessities is called rasabhasa. An overlapping mellow by advanced devotees who know how to taste transcendental mellows. Such mellows are called uparasa, that is sub-mellows. Anurasa is imitation and transcendental mellows, and aparasa opposing transcendental mellows. Thus, the overlapping of transcendental mellows is described as being first grade, second grade, and third grade, when the 12 mellows, such as neutrality, servitorship, and friendship, are characterized by adverse thai bhava, vibhava, and anubhava ecstasies. They are known as uparasa sub-mellows. When the 7 indirect transcendental mellows and the dried up mellow of neutrality are produced by devotees and moods not directly related to Krishna and devotional service, in ecstatic love, they are described as anurasa or imitation mellows. If Krishna and the enemies who harbor feelings of opposition toward him are respectively the object and abodes of the mellow of laughter, the resulting feelings are called aparasa, opposing mellows. Experts in distinguishing one mellow from another sometimes accept some overlapping transcendental mellows, rasabhasa and rasas, due to their being pleasurable and tasteful. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Paraspara Vairayor Yati Yogas Tada Rasabhasaha. When two opposing transcendental mellows overlap, they produce rasabhasa or an overlapping of the transcendental mellows. Verse 98. Ataiva Prabhu kichu age nahi shune ei Maryada Prabhu Kariyache Niyame. Therefore, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not hear anything before Swarup Damodar heard it first. The Lord made this etiquette a regulative principle. Verse 99. Swarup Dhani Acharya Kaila Nivedan Ek Vipra Prabhura Natak Kariyache Uttam. Bhagwan Acharya submitted to Swarup Damodar Goswami, a good Brahman has prepared a drama about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that appears exceptionally well composed. Verse 100. Adau tumi shuna yadi tomar man mane pache Mahaprabhure tabe karaimu shravane. First you hear it, and if it is acceptable to your mind, I shall request Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear it. Verse 101. Swarup kahe tumi gopa param udar ye se shastra shunite ichha upaje tumar. Swarup Damodar Goswami replied, Dear Bhagwan Acharya, you are very liberal, cowherd boy. Sometimes a desire awakens within you to hear any kind of poetry. Verse 102. Yadva tadva kavir vakye haya rasa bhasa siddhanta viruddha shunite na haya ullas. In the writings of so-called poets, there is generally a possibility of overlapping transcendental mellows. When the mellows thus go against the conclusive understanding, no one likes to hear such poetry. Purport Yadva Tadva Kavi refers to anyone who writes poetry without knowledge of how to do so. Writing poetry, especially poetry concerning the Vaishnava conclusion, is very difficult. If one writes poetry without proper knowledge, there is every possibility that the mellows will overlap. When this occurs, no learned or advanced Vaishnava will like to hear it. Verse 103, Rasa Rasa Bhasa Yar Nahika Vichar Bhakti Siddhanta Sindhu Nahi Paye Par. A so-called poet who has no knowledge of transcendental mellows and the overlapping of transcendental mellows cannot cross the ocean of the conclusions of devotional service. Verse 104 and 105. Vyakaran nahi jane na jane alankar nataka alankar gyan nahika yahar. Krishna lila varnite na jane se char vishesh durgam ei chaitanya vihar. A poet who does not know the grammatical regulative principles, who is unfamiliar with the metaphorical ornaments, especially those employed in drama, and who does not know how to present the pastimes of Lord Krishna, is condemned. Moreover, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are especially difficult to understand. Verse 106, Krishna Lila Gaur Lila se kare varnan Gaur Pad Padma Yanra Haye Pranadhana. One who has accepted the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his life and soul can describe the pastimes of Lord Krishna or the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 107, Gramya Kavir Kavitva Shunite Haya Dukha Vidgada Atmiya Vakye Shunite Haya Sukha. Hearing the poetry of a person who has no transcendental knowledge and who writes about the relationships between a man and woman simply causes unhappiness, whereas hearing the words of a devotee fully absorbed in ecstatic love causes great happiness. Purport Gramya Kavi refers to a poet or writer such as the authors of novels and other fiction who write only about the relationship between man and woman. Vidgad Amiya Vakya, however, refers to words written by a devotee who fully understands pure devotional service. Such devotees who follow the parampara system are sometimes described Sajatiya Yashya Snigdha, or pleasing to the same class of people. Only the poetry and other writings of such devotees are accepted with great happiness by devotees. Verse 108, Rupa Yaiche Dui Natak Kariyache Arambhe Shunite Anand Bare Yar Mukhe Bandhe. The standard for writing dramas has been set by Rupa Goswami. If a devotee hears the introductory portions of his true dramas, they enhance his transcendental pleasure. Verse 109, Bhagwan Acharya Kahe Shun Ek Bar Tumi Shunile Bhal Mand Janibe Vichar. Despite the explanations of Sarup Damodar Goswami, Bhagwan Acharya requested, please hear the drama once. If you hear it, you can consider whether it is good or bad. Verse 110. Dui teen din Acharya Agraha Karila Tandra Agrahe Sarupera Shunite Chahaila. For 2 or 3 days, Bhagwan Acharya continually asked Sarup Damodar Goswami to hear the poetry. Because of his repeated requests, Sarup Damodar Goswami wanted to hear the poetry written by the Brahman from Bengal. Verse 111. Sabalena Swarup Gosani Shunite Vasila Tabe Se Kavi Nandi Shloka Padila. Swarup Damodar Goswami sat down with other devotees to hear the poetry, and then the poet began to read the introductory verse. Verse 112. Vikach Kamala Netre Shri Jagannath Samjhe Kanakaruchir Tatmani Atmatam यह प्रपन्नः प्रकृति जगदम अशेषम चेतयन आविरासित स दिशतु तव भवयम Krishna Chaitanya Deva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has assumed a golden complexion and has become the soul of the body of named Lord Jagannath, whose blooming lotus eyes are widely expanded. Thus he has appeared in Jagannath Puri and brought dull matter to life. May the Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Dev bestow all good fortune upon you. Verse 113. Shlok Shuni Sarva Lok Tahare Vakhane Swarup Kahe E Shlok Karaha Vyakhyane. When everyone present heard the verse, they all commended the poet, but Swarup Damodar Goswami requested him kindly explain this verse. Verse 114. Kavi Kahe Jagannath Sundar Sharira Chaitanya Gosani Shariri Mahadhira. The poet said, Lord Jagannath is a most beautiful body, and Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is exceptionally grave, is the owner of that body. Purport. Shariri refers to a person who owns the sharira or body as stated in Bhagavad-Gita 2.13. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such change. For the ordinary living being, in material existence there is a division or distinction between the body and the owner of the body. In spiritual existence, however, there is no such distinction, for the body is the owner himself and the owner is the body itself. In spiritual existence, everything must be spiritual. Therefore, there is no distinction between the body and its owner. So we are all aiming that one day we'll be able to have that spiritual body and will be able to serve the Lord in his abode in Golok Vrindavan. Verse 115. Sahaje jada jagatera chetan karaite nilachale Mahaprabhu haila avirbhute. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared here in Nilachal Jagannath Puri to spiritualize the entire dull material world. Verse 116. Shuniya sabar haila anandit mana dukha pana swarup kahe sakrodha vachana. Hearing this, everyone present was greatly happy, but Swarup Damodar, who alone was very unhappy, began to speak in great danger. Verse 117. Are murkha apanar kailik sarvanash dui ta ishware tor nahika vishwas. You are a fool, he said. You have brought ill fortune upon yourself, for you have no knowledge of the existence of the two lords, Jagannath Dev and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, nor have you faith in them. Verse 118. Purnananda Chitta Swarupa Jagannath Rāya Tanre Kaili Jadanashwar Prakrit Kai. Lord Jagannath is completely spiritual and full of transcendental bliss, but you have compared him to a dull, indestructible body composed of the inert external energy of the Lord. Purport. If one thinks that the form of Lord Jagannath is an idol made of wood, he immediately brings ill fortune into this life. According to the direction of the Padma Puran, Arche Vishnu Shila Dih Yasya Va Naraki Saha. Anyone who considers the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood is resident of hell. Thus one who thinks that the body of Lord Jagannath is made of matter and who distinguishes between Lord Jagannath's body and his soul is condemned, for he is an offender. A pure devotee who knows the science of Krishna consciousness makes no distinction between Lord Jagannath and his body. He knows that they are identical, just as Lord Krishna and his soul are one and the same. When one's eyes are purified by devotional service performed on the spiritual platform, one can actually envision Lord Jagannath and his body as being completely spiritual. The advanced devotee therefore does not see the worshipable deity as having a soul within a body like an ordinary human being. There is no distinction between the body and the soul of Lord Jagannath, for Lord Jagannath is Satchidanand Vigraha, just as the body of Krishna is Satchidanand Vigraha. There is actually no difference between Lord Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the ignorant poet from Bengal applied a material distinction to the body of Lord Jagannath. Verse 119, Purna Shad Aishwarya Chaitanya Swayam Bhagwan Tanre Kaili Kshudra Jiva Sfuling Saman. You have calculated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in 6 opulences, to be on the level of an ordinary human being. Instead of knowing him as a supreme fire, you have accepted him as a spark, purport. In the Upanishads it is said, Yathagner Vispulinga Vicharanti. The living entities are like sparks of fire, and his lordship, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered the original great fire. When we hear the Shruti Vakya or message from the Vedas, we should understand the distinction between the Supreme Lord Krishna and the living entities. A person under the control of the external energy, however, cannot understand the distinction between a person. Such a person cannot understand that the Supreme Person is the original great fire, whereas the living entity is simply small fragmental parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita 15.7, Mama Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manashashtani Indriyani Prakriti Swatha Sthani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard, and the 6 senses, which include the mind. There is a distinction between the body and the soul of the materially existing living being, but because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath do not possess material bodies, there is a distinction between them, as said in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.11.38, Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti Stho Api Tad Gunahe No Na Yujyates Sadatma Sthair Yatha Buddhi. Buddhistad Ashraya. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord cannot be influenced by the material qualities. His Lordship, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, is unaffected by the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. Indeed, his devotees are also unpolluted by the influence of the external energy because they engage in the service of his Lordship. Even the very body of the devotee becomes spiritualized, just as an iron rod put into the fire becomes as qualified as fire because it becomes red hot and will immediately burn anything it touches. Therefore, the poet from Bengal committed a great sin by treating Lord Jagannath and the Supreme Personality of Godhead as 2 different entities, material and spiritual, as if the Lord was an ordinary living being. The Lord is always the master of the material universe energy. Therefore, he is not doomed to be covered by the material energy like an ordinary living entity. Verse 120, Dui Thani Apradhe Pathi Durgati Atev Jina Tattva Varane Tar Eiriti. Swarup Damodar continued, because you have committed an offense to Lord Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you will attain a hellish destination. You do not know how to describe the absolute truth, but nevertheless you have tried to do so, therefore you must be condemned. Purport: the Brahman poet from Bengal was an offender in the estimation of Sarup Damodar, for although the poet had no knowledge of the absolute truth, he had nevertheless tried to describe it. The Bengali poet was an offender to both Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath because he had made a distinction between Lord Jagannath and Mahaprabhu, between Lord Jagannath's body and his soul, and because he had indicated that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was different from Lord Jagannath, he had committed offences to them both. Atattva Gya refers to one who has no knowledge of the absolute truth, or who worships his own body as a supreme personality of Godhead. If an Ahangraha Upasaka Mayavadi, a person engaged in fruitive activities, or a person interested only in sense gratification, describes that absolute truth, be immediately become an offender. Verse 121. Ar ek kariyach param pramad deha dehi bhed ishware kaila aprad. You are the complete illusion, for you have distinguished between the body and the soul of this Lordship, Lord Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is a great offense. Purport: when one differentiates between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately becomes an offender, because the living entities in the material world are generally covered by the material bodies. The body and the soul of an ordinary human being cannot be identical. The Supreme Lord bestows the fruits of one's activities, for he is the Lord of the results of fruitive action. He is also cause of all causes, and he is the master of the material energy. Therefore he is supreme. An ordinary living being, however, in this material condition, experiences the results of his own fruitive activities, and therefore he falls under the influence even in the liberated stage of Brahma Bhuta identification. He engages in rendering service to his lordships. Thus there is distinction between an ordinary human being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. He is the master of the material energy, therefore he is supreme. And an ordinary living being, however, is the immaterial condition, experiences the results of his own fruitive activities, and therefore falls under this and their influence, even the liberated stage of Brahmabhuta identification. He engages in rendering service to his lordship. Therefore there are distinctions between an ordinary human being and Supreme Lord. Karmis and Gyanis who ignore these distinctions are offenders against the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. An ordinary human being is prone to be subjugated by the material energy, whereas the Lordship, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Govinda I've lost it. Okay, anyway, is always master of the material energy. Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, or Jagannath is always the master of the material energy and is therefore never subject to its influence. His Lordship, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has an unlimited spiritual identity, never to be spoken, whereas the consciousness of the living being is limited and fragmented. The living entities are fragmental portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead eternally. Mame Vamsho Jeev Loke Jeev Bhuta Sanatana. It is not like that they are covered by the neutral energy in conditioned life, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead has an unlimited spiritual identity, never to be broken, whereas the consciousness of a living entity is limited and fragmented. The living entities are fragmental portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead eternally. It is not that they are covered by material energy in conditioned life, but become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead when freed from influence of material energy, such as in an idea is offensive. According to considerations of Mayavadi fools, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts material body when he appears in the material world. A Vaishnava, however, knows perfectly well that for Krishna, Lord Jagannath, or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unlike the ordinary human beings, there is no distinction between the body and the soul. A Vaishnava, however, knows perfectly well that Krishna, Lord Jagannath, and Sri Chaitanya are unlike for ordinary human beings. There is no distinction between the body and the soul. Even in the material world, Lordship retains his spiritual identity. Therefore, Lord Krishna exhibited all appearances even in his childhood body. There is no distinction between the body and the soul of Krishna, whether he is in childhood or youthful age. He is always identical with his body, even though Krishna appears like an ordinary human being. He is never subjected to the rules and regulations of the material world. He is Swarat or fully independent. He can appear in the material world, but contrary to the offensive conclusion of Mayavad school, he has no material body. In this connection, one may again refer to the above mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.11.38. Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti I've lost the sentence. Okay. Even though Krishna appears like an ordinary human being, he is never subjected to the rules and regulations of the material world. He is Swarat, fully independent. He can appear in the material world. But contrary to the offensive conclusions of the Mayavad school, he has no material body. In this connection, one may again refer to the above mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.11.38. Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti-stho api tad guneh na yujyate sadatma sthair yatha buddhis tad ashraya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has an eternal spiritual body. If one tries to distinguish between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he commits great offense. Verse 122. Ishwarera nahi kabhu Deha Dehi Bhed, Swarup Deha Chidanand Nahika Vibhed. At no time is there a distinction between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His personal identity and his body are made of blissful spiritual energy. There is no distinction between them. Purport: Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is Advajya Jnana. In other words, there is no distinction between the body and his soul. For his existence is completely spiritual according to the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with the words Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam 1.2.11. The absolute truth is always to be understood from three angles of visions as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Unlike the objects of the material world, however, the absolute truth is always one and always the same. Thus, there is no distinction between his body and his soul. His form, name, attributes, and pastimes, therefore, are completely distinct from those of the material world. One should know perfectly well that there is no difference between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one conceives of a distinction between his body and his soul, one is immediately conditioned by material nature. Because a person in the material world makes such distinctions, he is called Baddhajiv or conditioned soul. Verse 123. Deha Dehi Vibhago Yam Ayam Neshware Vidyate Kvachit. There is no distinction between the body and the soul of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at any time. This quotation, which is included in Laghu Bhagavata Amrita 1.5.342, is from the Kurma Puran. Verse 124 and 25. Nataha paramparama yad bhavataha swarupam ananda matram avikalpam avidha varchaha pashyami vishwasrijam ekam avishwam atman bhutendriyatmaka madastad upashrito-smi tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalya Mangalaya Dhyane Smano Darshitam Ta Upasakanam Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Anu Vidhem Tubhyam Yo Anadrito Naraka Bhagavir Asat Prasangay. O my Lord, I do not see a form superior to your present form of eternal bliss and knowledge. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence in the spiritual sky, there is no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. I surrender unto you because, whereas I am proud of my material body and senses, your Lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, yet you are untouched by matter. Purport: this present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. These verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.3 to 4 were spoken by Lord Brahma. Verse 126. Kahan Purna Ananda Aishwarya Krishna Mayeshwara Kahan Kshudra Jiva Dukhi Mayar Kinkara. Whereas Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of transcendental bliss, possesses all six spiritual opulences in full, and is the master of the material energy, the small conditioned soul, who is always unhappy, is the servant of the material energy. Purport: the living entity is an ever conditioned servant of the material energy, whereas Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the master of the material energy. How then could they be on an equal level? There can be no comparison between them. His Lordship is always in a happy condition of transcendental bliss, whereas the conditioned soul is always unhappy because of his contact with the material energy. The Supreme Lord controls the material energy, and the material energy controls the conditioned souls. There is therefore no comparison between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the ordinary living entities. Verse 127. Ladinya samvidya lishtaha Sachidananda Ishwaraha Swavidya Samvrito Jivaha Sankalesha Nikarakaraha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, is always full of transcendental bliss and is accompanied by the potencies known as Ladini and Samvit. The conditioned soul, however, is always covered by ignorance and embarrassed by the threefold miseries of life. Thus he is a treasure house of all kinds of tribulations. Purport: this verse is found in Sridhar Swami's Bhavarth Deepika 1.7.6, wherein he quotes Sri Vishnu Swami. Verse 128. Shuni Sabha Sadera Chitte Haila Chamatkar Satya Kahe Gosani Tunhar Kariyache Tiraskar. Hearing this explanation, all the members of the assembly were struck with wonder. Swarup Damodar Goswami has spoken the real truth. They admitted the Brahman from Bengal has committed an offense by wrongly describing Sri Jagannath, Lord Jagannath and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 129. Shuniya Kavir Haila Lajja Bhaya Vismaya Hamsa Mathe Baka Yaiche Kichu Nahi Kaya. When the Bengali poet heard this chastisement from Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was ashamed, fearful and astonished. Indeed, being like a duck in a society of white swans, he could not say anything. Verse 130. Tar dukh dekhi Swarup sadaya hridaya upadesh kaila tare yaiche hit haya. Seeing the poet's unhappiness, Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was naturally very kind-hearted, advised him so that he could derive some benefit. Verse 131. Yaha Bhagvat Pada Vaishnaver Sthane Ekant Ashray Karachaitanya Charane. If you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, you must approach a self-realized Vaishnava and hear from him. You can do this When you have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, purport. Herein Swarup Damodar Goswami instructs the poets from Bengal to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure Vaishnava and learn from him. In India especially, there is now a class of professional Bhagavatam readers whose means of livelihood is to go from village to village, town to town, reading Bhagavatam and collecting dakshina or rewards in the form of money or goods like umbrellas, cloth and fruit. Thus there is now a system of Bhagavad business with recitations called Bhagavad Saptah that continue for 1 week. Although this is not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, nowhere does Srimad Bhagavatam say that the Bhagavatam should be heard for 1 week from professionals. Rather, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 says, Srinavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized Vaishnava. By such hearing, one becomes pious. Ridhi Antahasto Hi Abhadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam. As one thus hears the Bhagavatam regularly and sincerely, his heart is purified of all material contamination. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and by rendering the service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Bhagavatam 1.2.18. This is the proper process, but people are accustomed to being misled by professional Bhagavatam reciters. Therefore, Swarup Damodar Goswami herein advises that one should not hear Srimad Bhagavatam from professional reciters. Instead, one hear from and learn the Bhagavatam from a self-realized Vaishnava. Sometimes it is seen that when a Mayavadi sannyasi reads the Bhagavatam, flocks of men go to hear jugglery of words that cannot awaken their dormant love for Krishna. Sometimes people go to see professional dramas and offer food and money to the players who are expert at collecting these offerings very nicely. The result is that the members of the audience remain in the same position of Griham Andhakupam, family affection, and do not awaken their love for Krishna. In the Bhagavatam 7.5.30 it is said, Matir sa Krishne paratah swato va mitho abhipadyeta griha vratanam, the griha vratas. Those who are determined to continue following the materialistic way of life will never awaken the dormant love of Krishna, for they hear the Bhagavatam only to solidify their position in household life and to be happy in family affairs. And condemning this process of hearing the Bhagavatam from professional, Swarup Damodar Goswami says, Yaha Bhagavata Pada Vaishnavera Sthane. To understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, you must approach a self-realized Vaishnava. One should rigidly avoid hearing the Bhagavatam from a Mayavadi or other non-devotee who simply performs a grammatical jugglery of words to twist some meanings from the text, collect money from the innocent public, and thus keep people in darkness. Swarup Damodar Goswami strictly prohibits the behavior of the materialistic so-called hearers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Instead of awakening real love for Krishna, such hearers of the Bhagavatam become more and more attached to household affairs, and Yan Maithunadi Grahamedi Sukham Hi Tucham. One should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who has no connection with the materialistic activities, or in other words, from a Paramhansa Vaishnava who has achieved the highest stage of sannyas. This, of course, is not possible unless one takes shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srimad Bhagavatam is understandable only for one who can follow the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 132. Chaitanyera Bhakta Ganera Nitya Karasanga Tabeta Janiba Sri Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. Swarup Damodar continued, associate regularly with the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for then only will you understand the waves of the ocean of devotional service. Purport: it is clearly to be understood in this connection that the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's way of devotion service are eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and perfect knowers of the Absolute Truth. If one immediately follows the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by associating with his devotees, lusty desires for material enjoyment will vanish from one's heart. Then one will be able to understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam and the purpose of listening to it, otherwise such understanding is impossible. Verse 133, Tabeta Panditya Tomar Haibe Safala Krishnera Sarup Lila Varniba Nirmala. Only if you follow the principles of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees will your learning will be successful. Then you will be able to write about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna without material contamination. Verse 134, Ei shloka kariyach pana santosha tomara hridayera arthe dunhai lage dosh. You have composed this introductory verse to your great satisfaction, but the meaning you have expressed is contaminated by offenses to both Lord Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 135, Tumi yaiche taiche kahas na janiya riti Saraswati says shabde kariyache stuti. You have written something irregular, not knowing the regulative principle, but the goddess of learning Saraswati has used your verse to offer her praise to the Supreme Lord. Purport Saru Damodar Goswami informed the Bengali poet, because of your ignorance and your leaning toward Mayavad philosophy, you cannot distinguish the difference between the Mayavad and the Vaishnava philosophies. Therefore, the process you have adopted to praise Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath does not follow the proper system. Indeed, it is irregular and offensive. Fortunately, however, through your words, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, has tactfully offered her prayers to her master, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 136, Yaiche Indra Daityadi Kare Krishnera Bhartsana Say Shabde Saraswati Karena Stavana. Sometimes demons and even Lord Indra, the king of heaven, chastised Krishna, but Mother Saraswati, taking advantage of their words, offered prayers to the Lord. Verse 137, Vachalam Balisham Stabdham Agyanam Pandita Maninam Krishnam Martyam Upashritya Gopa Me Chakrur Apriyam. Lord Indra said, this Krishna, who is an ordinary human being, is talkative, childish, impudent and ignorant. Although he thinks himself very learned, the cowherd men in Vrindavan have offered me by accepting him. This has not been greatly appreciated by me. Purport, this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.25.5. Verse 138, Aishwarya Made Matta Indra Yena Mato Yal Buddhi Nash Haila Keval Nahika Sambhala. Indra, the king of heaven, being too proud of his heavenly opulences, became like a madman. Thus bereft of his intelligence, he could not restrain himself from speaking nonsensically about Krishna. Verse 139, Indra Bale Muni Krishnera Kariyachi Nindan Tar E Mukhe Saraswati Karena Stavana. Thus Indra thought, I have properly chastised Krishna and defamed him, but Saraswati, the goddess of learning, took this opportunity to offer praise to Krishna. Verse 140, Vachala Kahiye Ved Pravartak Dhanya Abalisha Tathapi Shishu Rāya Garva Shunaya. The word Vachal is used to refer to a person who can speak according to Vedic authority, and the word Balisha means innocent. Krishna spoke the Vedic knowledge, yet he always presents himself as a prideless, innocent boy. Verse 141, Vandya Bhave Anmara Stabdha Shabde Kaya Yaha Haite Anya Vigna Nahi Se Ajna Haya. When there is no one else to receive obeisances, one may be called Anmra, or one who offers obeisances to no one. This is the meaning of the word stabda, and because no one is found to be more learned than Krishna, he may be called Agya, Agna, indicating that nothing is unknown to him. Verse 142, Panditera manye patra haya pandita mani, tathapi bhakta vatsalye manushya abhimani. The word pandita mani can be used to indicate that Krishna is honored even by the learned scholars. Nevertheless, because of affection for his devotees, Krishna appears like an ordinary human being, and therefore be called a Martya. Verse 143, Jarasandha kahe Krishna Purusha Adhama Tora Sange na Yujimu Yahi Bandhuhan. The demon Jarasandha chastised Krishna, saying, "You are the lowest of human beings. I shall not fight with you, or for you killed your own relatives." Purport: in this verse also, Mother Saraswati offers praise to Krishna. The Purush Adham refers to the personality of Godhead, under whom all the persons remain, or in other words, Purush Uttam, the best of all living beings. Similarly, the word Bandhu means the killer of the Maya and conditioned state of life. One is closely related with Maya as a friend, but when one comes in contact with Krishna, one is freed from that relationship. Verse 143, Yaha haite anya purush sakala adhama se haya purushadhama saraswatir mana. Mother Saraswati takes purushadhams to mean Purushottam, he to whom all men are subordinate. Verse 145, Bandhe sabare tate avidya bandhu haya, avidya nashaka bandhuhan shabde kaya. Nations or Maya may be called Bandhu because she entangles everyone in the material world. Therefore, by using the word Bandhuhan, Mother Saraswati says that Lord Krishna is the vanquisher of Maya. Purport: everyone is entangled in the illusory energy, but as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita 7.14, Mam ev ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. As soon as one surrenders to Krishna, he is freed from Maya. Therefore, Krishna may be called Bandhuhan, the killer of Maya. Verse 146, E mata Shishupal karila nindana sei vakye Saraswati karena stavana. Shishupal also blasphemed Krishna in this way, but the goddess of learning Saraswati offered her praise to Krishna even by his words. Verse 147, Taiche eshloke tomar arthe ninda aise, Saraswatir artha shuna yate stuti bhase. In that way, although your verse is blasphemous according to your meaning, Mother Saraswati has taken advantage of it to offer praise to the Lord. Verse 148, Jagannath hena Krishnera Atma Swarup Kintu Ihan Daru Brahma Sthavar Swarup. There is no difference between Lord Jagannath and Krishna, but here Lord Jagannath is fixed as the absolute person appearing in wood, therefore he does not move. Verse 149, Tanha Saha Atmata Eka Rupa Hana Krishna Eka Tattva Rupa Dui Rupa Hana. Thus Lord Jagannath and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although appearing as two, are one because they are both Krishna, who is one. Verse 150, Samsara Tarana Hetu Yai Ichha Shakti Tahar Milana Kari Ekta Yaiche Prapti. The supreme desire to deliver the entire world meets in the two of them, and for that reason also they are one and the same. So Krishna and Jagannath, Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are one and the same. Verse 151, Sakala Samsari Lokera Karite Udhar Gaura Jangam Rupe Kailavatar. To deliver all the materially contaminated people of the world, that name Krishna has descended in the moving form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. verse 152. Jagannather darshane khandaya samsar sab desher sab lok nare asibar. By visiting Lord Jagannath, one is freed from material existence, but not all men of all countries can come or be admitted herein. Jagannath Puri, verse 153. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Deshe Deshe Yana Sab Loke Nistarila Jangam Brahma Hena. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, moves from one country to another, personally or by his representative. Thus he, as the moving Brahman, delivers all the people of the world. Verse 154. Saraswatir arth e kahilun vivarna eho bhagya tomar aiche karile varnan. Thus I have explained the meaning intended by Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. It is your great fortune that you have described Lord Jagannath and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. Verse 155. Krishna gali dite kare naam uchcharan sai naam haya tar muktir karana. Sometimes it so happens that one who wants to chastise Krishna utters the holy name, and thus the holy name becomes the cause of his liberation. So this happened among all the demons of Vrindavan and elsewhere. Verse 156. Tabe se kavi sabar charane padiya sabar sharan laila Dante Trina Lena. Upon hearing the proper explanation of the Apsaru Damodar Goswami, the Bengali poet fell down at the feet of all the devotees and took shelter of them with a straw in his mouth. Verse 157. Tabe sab bhakt tare angikar kaila tar gun kahi Mahaprabhure mila ila. Thereupon all the devotees accepted his association, explaining his humble behavior. They introduced him to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 158. Se kavi sarvatyaji rahila nila chale gaur bhakta ganera kripa ke kahite pare. By the mercy of the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that poet from Bengal gave up all other activities and stayed with them at Jagannath Puri. Who can explain the mercy of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Verse 159. Eta kahilun Pradyumna Miśra Vivarna Prabhura Agyay Kaila Krishna Kathar Shravana. I have thus described the narrations concerning Pradyumna Miśra and how, following the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he listened to discourses about Krishna spoken by Rāmānanda Rāya. Verse 160. Tara madhye kahilun Rāmānandera mahima apane Shri Mukhe Prabhu Varne Yanram Sima. Within the narration, I have explained the glorious characteristics of Sri Rāmānanda Rāya, through whom Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally described the limits of ecstatic love for Krishna. Verse 161. Prastave kahilun Kavir Natak Vivarna Agya Hena Samridhaya Paila Prabhur Charana. In the course of the narration, I have also told about the drama by the poet from Bengal. Although he was ignorant, because of his faith and humility, he nevertheless obtained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 162. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Lila Amrite Rasar Ek Lila Pravahe Vahe Shat Shat Dhar. The pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the essence of nectar. From the stream of one of his pastimes flow hundreds and thousands of branches. Verse 163. Shraddha Kari E Lila E Pade Shune Gaura Lila Bhaktir Bhakta Rasa Tattva Jane. Anyone who reads and hears these pastimes with faith and love can understand the truth about devotional service, devotees, and transcendental mellows of the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 164. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Yar Ash Chaitanya Charitamrit Kahe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit following in their footsteps, thus ending the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit Antilila, 5th chapter, describing how Pradyumna Miśra received instructions from Rāmānanda Rāya. So we'll continue. We are reading next time from chapter number 6. We'll begin that chapter. Hariam Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.